Yes, your question will be taken, Bone Mill Boy. But first, as always, Patreon question time. Human Locker asks, Hi Fleet, non-traditional ramblings question. Which moment on the show does a fleet review and a fly past, which one got buried at sea at 3 a.m. with no witnesses? Well, to answer the second one first, that whole debacle with Drake's Drum, I'd like to pretend never happened. I keep it up on the channel because I don't believe in hiding things, but I do rewatch a lot of my own stuff since I do find it interesting. That's the one thing I never rewatch. That's the one thing if I could bury any part of it or have it not happen, that's the one thing I wish never happened.
That was cringe.
God, no
Drake's
kidding.
Drum.
God, no kidding. As for which moment on the show does Oza Fleet Review and a fly past? Oh, come on, it's got to be the 4-year anniversary. It's got to be. I think I probably hold the record for the most people in the historical YouTube space and surrounding it gathered in one place at one time. I can't think of any other show or piece of internet media that has the Chieftain, Drac, Dr. Clark, Venom Geek Media, Rex's Hangar, The Shipyard, Killer Bin from World of Warships, all in one place at the same time. Please, go look. I'd like to see you try and find one. Oh, I almost forgot. There we go. But yes, that's... Welcome, Knight, welcome. Right, so, without further ado, Bone Mill Boy asks an actually fairly interesting question on Discord. What happens if Operation Sea Lion is attempted by the Wehrmacht in September 1940 due to them doing better in the Battle of Britain, being mentally overconfident, and ends as horrifically as everyone predicts it would? How would the loss of hundreds of thousands of Nazi troops change the strategic situation globally? What doors does it open for the Allies? What effect does it have on German-Soviet relations? And does Japan still launch the Pacific War? Well, Japan has... The Japanese launching the Pacific War is going to happen basically regardless. You've not changed U.S. policy related to Japanese expansionism, which therefore means you've not changed Japanese successes or failures in the East. You've not changed the circumstances that will lead to their annexation of Vichy French Indochina, which therefore means you haven't stopped the US blockade, which means you haven't then changed any of the calculus that leads to the Japanese decision to roll the 1,000,000 to 1 dice. So that's still happening. Now, in regards to everything else, so I've answered the easy bit first. In regards to everything else, the strategic situation in mainland Europe isn't meaningfully affected as it stands immediately post invasion of Britain. There is no real prospect, even with the losses sustained by the Reich, of the British attempting a counter-invasion of France, nor of any Vichy French, aha, we were only kidding, lads, back with the Allies we go, either. While the losses are bad and probably consist of some of the best troops in the German army, they're not crippling in and of themselves. Especially when you consider that in 1940, the Germans were demobilizing anyway to put working men, back into the economy to prepare for the invasion of the Soviet Union. This doesn't really impact Barbarossa, not really. They might have to call up some more conscripts that might not be available later in the war. So they might have to expand their conscription bracket in terms of younger and older ages. But they could still make up the equivalent numbers of roughly equivalent skill that would cross the border into Russia in the middle of 1941. And given that this invasion would have been stopped at the beaches, you're not looking at a great deal of equipment being lost either. This isn't going to be a Dunkirk style scenario. So a lot of Axis heavy equipment won't be lost either. Although depending on if it's a Luft, although depending on how the invasion actually goes, it's going to depend on. I don't think the Kriegsmarine will get involved, given that any plans for Sea Lion basically involved Kriegsmarine heavy units basically going, no, we're not. No, we're not. We're just not. We're off here in the corner. Come chase us, boys. And trying to hope the British would chase them. And definitely not getting stuck into any sort of shore bombardment work in the channel. The whole show for the Kriegsmarine in Sea Lion was supposed to be, I believe, destroyers at biggest, and mostly corvettes, frigates, sloops, and S and E boats. And of course, as many U-boats as they could concentrate, that without risking patrols in the Atlantic. The big thing is it might delay Barbarossa. Might. It's going to depend entirely on whether Hitler decides he can. It basically depends on how the Germans use the period 40-41. They could quite entirely reconstitute their losses. But that is going to mean they're not really going to be looking at some of their adventures in the Balkans that they did. Although that could be quite an easy trial run for their new regiments and divisions they've raised. Well, not so much new divisions, but the new conscripts they've raised. A blooding prior to Barbarossa, if you will.
Can I?
We're not talking... Well, I mean, yes, you can.
Okay, I'm finished, because I got to rehash down a lot what you said. But finish what you're saying.
I'm pretty much... I mean, the losses are... It's hundreds of thousands of men, but you're talking a nation that raises an army of nearly 3 million to invade the Soviet Union. It's a percentage, make no mistake, but it's a replaceable percentage.
It's not, though.
It is.
Because the issue isn't the numbers of men lost. It's the loss of those specific men that are the issue. Because it depends on which version of Operation Sea Lion are we going off of.
I mean, the German airborne forces...
do they get a shot?
The German airborne forces are going to be knackered. That's one thing we can all agree on. Yeah, absolutely knackered.
Let us. Because the issue is a lot of the divisions that get earmarked and then unearmarked for Sea Lion are the core of the pre-war professional Wehrmacht. Those are the troops that got earmarked to get across the channel. Because the Heer believe that they would have either an intermittent or a limited supply throughput. So they realized they would need a small but highly capable force. The only force the Wehrmacht and the Heer have of getting that through are their professional pre-war. Sort of the core of the Wehrmacht. Who, you're right, there are only 300,000 to 400,000 men. The issue is these are the elite forces. The same ones that would go on to fight the early battles of Barbarossa, that would facilitate the crumpling of the Red Army.
I will point out the quality of the individual soldiery has very little to do with the crumpling of the Red Army. Quite frankly, the Red Army did most of its crumpling itself in the opening phase of Barbarossa.
But the fact of the matter is, it's a veterancy on the battalion level. matters a lot. Especially when you're trying to engage in high-level maneuver warfare.
We are talking about the possible losses of some of the most veteran NCOs.
Yeah.
That is the major issue. Because, yes, you could build an armies from scratch, but
We're not even talking about a
without
double
those...
digit. We're not even talking a double-digit percentage of the German army as it stands in 1940 here.
Yeah, but that's
Yes,
the
but-
point of it's not the math that's the problem. It's who you're losing.
Because
You're
the issue
losing
is...
the tip of the spear.
Because so the issue is the Germans' intent on the first wave is intended on throwing the mostly the Army Group A units, which are people that's been through Czechoslovakia, been through Poland, just recently been through France. We're talking about these are the ones that knows what they're doing. If you throw them across the channel and you lose them all, you're now back to a bunch of NCOs that you only recently raised up, who doesn't know the tricks to how to run a highly effective unit, and the German army effectiveness is just not where it should be.
I fundamentally
down the
disagree.
road.
I think you're massively overselling the impact here. I think you're massively underselling the basic competence of the average German soldier in NCO in this period. We're not talking about a force.
No.
The way you two are phrasing it, it's like if this happens, the German force is kneecapped and dead. That's how this comes across to me, which is
no, we're not saying it's kneecapped and dead.
That's how it sounds.
No, we're saying that you mean right. So let's take our example of the Red Army. We can all agree that the purges crippled the Red Army.
Yes.
Despite the fact the Red Army had men and rifles.
Yes.
And could raise a massive amount of conscripts.
Yes.
The damage done in the purges is the command and control and the core of those divisions.
Indeed, that's correct.
Yeah. And in Barbarossa, it is a small collection of divisions that are capable of the large-scale maneuver warfare that break through and manage to break the Soviet supply network with stuff like the race towards Kiev and the fall of Lviv.
That's very true.
And the smash into the Baltic.
That's very true, but none of these...
Let me finish. And the Red Army shows that if you do not have a veteran corps in command and control, you can have the mass, but your army's ability to wield that mass is severely diminished.
Okay, a few points.
And the actual units earmarked for Barbarossa are that veteran corps.
Not all of them.
But the majority of them.
No, not the majority of them. Not the ones that matter
yes, the
anyway.
majority of them.
Not
the majority of them.
Not the ones that matter.
The ones that matter. They earmarked panzer divisions for it.
Not for the opening landings. Which are the things that are going to be obliterated, and thereby the rest will not follow, I would assume. Unless the Germans are being... Unless we're making the Germans utterly suicidal.
Okay, then we have a major disagreement.
And also, let's not forget the fact that you're comparing the purges, which was a systematic top-down purge of anybody with half a brain cell, from the generals down in the Red Army, all the way down to the NCOs, and possibly even lower than that, to an offensive operation which would suffer a lot of casualties, but is not going to gut German training establishments, it's not going to gut German officer cadres, it's not going to gut the army as a whole or the training pipeline it relies on.
Right. Okay, quick question. Are you aware that the General Staff and the Wehrmacht officer cadre went through a series of purges between 1936 and 1939
Yes, I am aware of that.
that got rid of the vast majority of officers because they were disloyal to the Nazi Party.
Yes, I know that.
And the Wehrmacht was, in the early part of the war, carried by a small cadre of officers who were, most of them young officers, who were effective because they had already seen combat in the Czech Republic, in Slovakia,
That wasn't, well, there wasn't
and
really
in
much.
Poland.
There wasn't really, well, Poland, yes, I'll grant you, but there was very little to any fighting in the Czech Republic and Slovakia.
Yeah, but
It's not the fighting part.
it's the organization and the movement side of things that's the issue for the Wehrmacht.
You'd be surprised how hard it is to organize 1,000 people to move from one place to another.
No, I really wouldn't. It's not exactly an easy thing. My issue isn't, I'm not saying it wouldn't have any impact. The point I'm making is I think you're overselling the impact, given the time they have to correct it.
Oh,
Because,
no, we're not selling. We're not overselling the impact. The entire point of Barbarossa is the fact that the German army is effective because it's capable of the level of maneuvers it
And I say you
Has
guys
been-
are overselling
has
the impact
demonstrated.
of these losses, and it wouldn't be
right,
as
no,
bad
no,
as
we
you're
need to come
saying.
to we need to come to a thing, right? The landings happen for Sea Lion. So that means 35,000 men have landed.
Okay. And the Paras as well, because that would probably go. They would go in the
That's
same.
not including the Paras. And
Okay. I mean, the Paras are basically fucked. I think we can all agree they ain't coming back.
yeah. Secondly, right, because where the question specifics?
Yeah, it
'Cause
says.
this is important.
Yeah, because he's talking about the loss of hundreds of thousands of men. Which, if it is the case, I was going off the 30,000 figure we were talking about, you know, for opening phase of Sea Lion. But if it is hundreds of thousands of men, then I would agree with you guys. But 35,000, I wouldn't. But if he's talking about somehow the
Because-
Germans throwing hundreds of thousands of men at the beaches to die, that is an entirely different kettle of fish.
Because 35,000 men were part of the initial landing. In the time period they were landing and taking the beaches. The second wave was supposed to launch 2 days later.
Right.
So if they're getting the landing and they're going for the plan that takes over, they've gone up the cliffs and they're now into Kent, which is the bare minimum for a successful Sea Lion.
which
because- Like hell is Dover going to be intact when they take it.
yeah, but
So
also,
they need to that supply throughput. That means in the second wave they are landing armor, which means they are landing panzer divisions.
I don't even think you get the second wave. You can't. If it's going to be this horrific failure, you can't get the second wave. Like, the Germans are stopped on the beaches. It's not possible for them to get off the beaches. Every war game ever done has them stopped on the beaches. Apart from one outlying case where they got exceptionally lucky.
Are we going with best case scenario or worst case scenario?
I mean, the Germans... The problem is, so much has to go right for the Germans to even get off the fucking beaches and up into Kent. That's how bad we're talking in terms of invasion prospects. Oh, if they're stopped on the beaches, Bone Mill Boy, this is actually a lot better for the Germans if they get further.
Well,
It's
debatable.
Just a slap in the face because a couple of thousand blokes die.
Well,
But
no,
9,000.
no. If it's the
No.
first wave, it's 35,000 men lost.
Which
Which
I'll back up.
He's
with.
crippling.
Yeah, but the actual crippling forces come in the second wave, which is when they plan for the armor to land.
The Panzer
And if
Division, stuff like that.
Eh,
Yeah, and if the Panzer divisions land and then get pushed into the sea,
Oof.
that cripples Barbarossa.
Yeah, that does. Yeah, I'll agree with Fox on that.
Because the mechanized forces, the Nazis already are on a shoestring budget for.
Mhm,
The
yep,
Panzer divisions they
What?
don't have enough for
yep.
What?
what the plans call for.
Not quite.
They-
Yeah, that they did have the armored forces they wanted. They wanted more in reserve, but they didn't have the full reserve. Right.
I mean, Bob pulled in everything, and even then, it was barely
Yeah.
enough.
But the issue with Barb is it also pulled in the training cadre,
Yeah.
and you never want to pull in the training cadre. If you pull in the training cadre, you've lost the war.
Yeah. But if it's just the infantry in the first wave, the 35,000, which sucks, so I'm sorry, I think I understand what you're driving at. We were both coming at this from, you were assuming the whole shebang goes in and dies. I was assuming the stopped at the beaches, and only the unlucky schmucks in the first wave die.
Yeah, because if they just get smacked in the face like the British did at Dieppe, the war continues as normal. But if they actually make a serious landing, and they actually get, even if it's partially interdicted by the Royal Navy,
No, this gets much worse than actually you mentioned.
go on.
No, the first initial wave is meant to be 138,000.
In what world do the Germans have the logistic to move 138,000 men? Even with the
That is
barge
the
con-
intent.
It wants
That was the.
it wants
that
to
was
land
the Allied-
7 divisions in
They are planning
the
to-
first wave.
They are planning to deploy 2 full army groups, including Army Groups 13, 7, 5th, 41, 4th Army Corps, the 42nd Army Corps, all of 9th Army. Like, you're underestimating Sea Lion here. Sea Lion was
Yeah.
nuts. The intention is literally within 48 hours of the operation beginning, not even reaching the UK, 138,000 men are in the water.
Yeah, but I must say, I was being generous and going with a lower estimate of the wave that gets from the beaches as a part of that first wave. The first lot of 35,000. Then they get D-Day style. There's a second landing and a third landing.
That was basically because that's what German logistics could support, given the barges they
No.
have. No, given the barge infrastructure they have, given what they have to actually do the landings. That 35,000
No,
figure is
you're-
about the maximum they can actually support in terms of an opposed
That's not what.
first wave
That's
landing.
not what. That is not though what they agreed upon in the plan. Nor is it what the actual order of battle for Sea Lion is.
To be perfectly blunt, the orders of battle for Sea Lion are fantasy. If I'm being brutally honest with you, the German
It also depends
the
what period.
the German
This
high
is, this is the one. This is the one 39 through 40, Foxer. So the actual Operation Sea Lion
Yes.
plan.
But remember, there's 3 different plans in that period.
No,
You've got the Kriegsmarine plan for how much they can land, the Hare plan for how much they need to land, and the Luftwaffe's plan for how many they can provide air support for. Noticeably, the Kriegsmarine concentrate around
Those aren't-
Dover for the
no,
landing,
That's not the same thing.
and the Hare have a much broader
You're
feeling.
confusing what the plan. You're confusing what the logistical plan was for versus what the actual, quite literal order of battle is. The order of battle did not care. The order of battle is this is what we're deploying.
Yes, but that's not how military planning works, Dragon.
It actually is
No,
because it's
that's
been
not-
done repeatedly.
Yeah, because I was being generous and saying once the first wave, they can logistically land 35,000 men.
So, the Kriegsmarine insisted that they could protect a full convoy of 140,000 men across 4 different invasion corridors, which they were being supplying by barges and various other different acquired transports. So the Kriegsmarine believed they could do this, falsely. The army believed they could do this, falsely.
Okay, so again,
And the air plan, so no, potentially, depends which version of the plans you're going off, or because going off the ones they wanted to do, that's 138,000 men in the water. That is crippling.
No, I'm sorry, but again, you've said falsely twice in that statement.
I
Like-
said that they assumed they could do it
Yes, which they're-
falsely.
again. So therefore, if we're talking about actual invasion, we don't want to go off German numbers. We want to go off actual calculations based on the
go
actual.
off-
No,
no,
we-
you go off the
no.
numbers they think they could do.
no, you
Because that is
don't.
what they will.
Because it does. Their numbers fundamentally are fucking bollocks. They don't make any sense. You go off actual transport capacity, and that's what you go off of, and that's 35,000 men in the
considering
first
most
wave.
of their transport capacity is also literally just taking anything that floats, it's doable.
Okay,
No,
right.
it's
The
not.
question specifies Operation Sea Lion. So I think we should take the figures the Germans say they can get for that operation. Because that's how many men. That's what the operation dictates. And that's what the question says. It's not asking for what we think Sea Lion would be, or other sources say the Germans had transport capacity. It's asking for the specific operation. So that's, what did you say, 135,000 men?
138,000 men with over 48 hours, 250,000 within 2 weeks.
I don't think those
Now-
reinforcements are coming.
Those reinforcements are the heavy armored divisions, which is why they're meant to take longer. Yes, they would, Wellesley. Like, this is why I'm saying, this is why you'll know I've never said get onto shore. I've said in the water.
Hmm.
Because I personally do suspect the Royal Navy comes down swinging.
Well, yes, that's.
And you've now got a lot of dead Germans in the channel.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't even make the beach. Being brutally honest with you.
Remember, there were plans by the Royal Navy that if some of these landings were successful, they ground an R-class battleship along the coastline.
I mean, politely, they don't even need to do that.
No, you
given-
wouldn't be fishing out dead Germans to this day. They would be mostly decomposed by now.
The fish would eat well.
The fish would have eaten them, and they would have decomposed.
Wellesley, Bismarck ain't in service for another year at this point.
You're looking at an Ostfjord situation where the heavy cruisers are laden with troops as well.
Like I said, look into it. They're planning full Dunkirk style, where if it can go across the channel, it can be done. And you probably you probably are looking at Ostfjord, where they are loading
Germans-
cruisers with it.
No, German plans for the Sea Lion involved basically no use of a surface asset heavier than a destroyer in the channel. The Kriegsmarine was not willing to risk its heavy units anywhere near the channel for Sea Lion. Nothing larger than Zestroyer was to be
Seems-
committed.
Now that's interesting because the German command says otherwise.
Yes, are you going to tell Hitler?
What's the
you're-
order
the-
of battle
they
they're
have-
looking at here?
Planning deploying at least Admiral Scheer and Admiral Hipper, as
Ugh,
well as potentially
Not that myth again. It's
what myth fleet
It's
want
a-
to back that one up.
any idea that the Germans are going to put any heavy units into the channel is just idiotic in the extreme.
Your proof?
The fact that they consistently talk about the fact that it's going to be idiotic in the extreme.
Your proof?
Oh, God. Take a running conk at yourself, man. It's obvious.
Is it?
But okay, we agreed that since the question specified Operation Sea Lion, using order of battle for the operation, are these ships in the order of battle?
Yes. Part of the
Yeah,
part of the naval.
So
high
they're
command
going
forces.
to be there.
They did want more ships, but the only heavy surface assets that actually were available were Scheer and Hipper.
Every source I've ever read, even if I can't find them right now, has always indicated that any idea for German surface
I
units
am-
was either Duff fed to Hitler to keep him from objecting to the Kriegsmarine plan, apart from that, or deliberate propaganda to be fed to the British.
I am reading here. Yes, you're in Hippers in the order of battle, but they are in a deception force.
Yeah, they're meant to engage merchant cruisers and engage in North Sea and Channel, effectively dealing with enemy cruisers to try and deceive what's going on.
I don't see North Sea and Channel. I see Northern Patrol.
which is what I always read, that they weren't going to be anywhere near Sea Lion. They were going to be engaged in the overall plan for Sea Lion generally, but nowhere near the channel.
Like I'm reading raiding near Scotland and stuff like that. I don't think that is close enough to
That's North Sea.
provide direct support.
We are paying attention to the YouTube chats, but there's not really anything that's been said that we...
But this is why I'm saying you have a lot of Germans die, and it is crippling
Well, yeah, that's
because
not
you
up for
lose
debate.
most of your best armies.
Well, you lose a good chunk of your... I mean, if they are suicidal enough to launch... the
Actually,
f-
oh joy, they've lost 8th and 10th Panzer divisions.
If they're suicidal enough to launch them.
No,
If
this
the
is- no,
second
that-
wave lands.
What's it called? Yes, no. It is of Army Group A's second group. But that does not mean the long
second
period
wave.
after, so this is within the 48-hour period.
Mm.
And the
So they
second
are
wave
at
comes
sea.
after the 48 hours.
No, that's stuff like 3rd and 4th wave.
That's what I missed. I was trying to ring us.
Not really.
Either
much.
way, things go badly wrong.
Well, yes.
I don't think the Germans is capable of landing 9 divisions
They're
in
not.
48 hours.
They're not. Even if the order of... Like, I understand what Fox and Dragon are saying about reading the question as written, but I just... Given the fact that...
If we are assuming, yes, the entire Sea Lion plan goes or proceeds despite any sort of result on the other end, then yeah, it is extremely crippling because that is 4 Panzer divisions
But if the Germans...
heading that way.
But if the Germans use their initiative as they have done in every previous operation they've ever done, they're not going to feed men into the meat grinder if it becomes apparent in the first 10 hours the invasion is a catastrophic failure.
They probably
Well,
won't be
they're
in the
not
first
going to
10
find out
hours.
in the first hours. It's going to take the first couple of days.
Yeah.
Because remember,
Unless,
the
of
Greys
course,
sort of the
unless of
Allies
course the
didn't.
issue comes from them just having difficulty landing on the beaches to begin with.
Well, they're already assuming an opposed landing, because they're assuming that the British have 17 Home Guard divisions on the south coast, which is why they think they need 9 divisions to effectively fight the 17 the Home Guard have. Now, we know the Home Guard is larger than that, but the Germans didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because the British order of battle is also scary to look at.
Yes. And the issue is that even with stuff like D-Day and the communications and the advancements in landings and communications that come from, well, the entire period, the entire war, Allied High Command only got concrete, unified information about how things were going on T-4, so no, not T-, T+4, or T+5. For the first couple of days, as the assaults were taking place, your unit might claim they've taken a beach, but you're still in the imminent effect of counterattack and actually holding it against garrisoned forces. And if those forces are landing in 48 hours, well, even going by Allied communications, German High Command, who's got the authority to call it off, ain't gonna know shit.
So we're all in agreement second wave is landing.
Right. I'm still not...
I would say second wave, maybe not third wave. Third wave, probably they do go, no, this is stupid.
I mean, that part doesn't matter. Second wave is the crippling part.
Yes. Because the idea is, again, to have that 140,000 men, 138,000 in total, to it. So they likely are going to try and get second wave off. And if those forces do land within the 48 hours, which is intended, or try to land even, Germany can't do most of the things it wants to. Because you also have now lost you've now lost 7th Panzer Division as well.
I will just point out tonight saying that Britain can afford to lose ships in Sea Lion, Germany can't. No, Britain can't afford to lose ships, especially not with Italian entry into the war, but they'll use them anyway, regardless, because the alternative is worse.
They can. Depends how it goes. They don't want to, but arguably they can actually afford to lose some older vessels. Because if they've managed to beat Germany that extensively, you've really now managed to lessen the worry of the threat in that area.
True. But we have beaten this question to death. But assuming, so basically I think it's a twofold answer. If it's the version me and Fox were thinking about with a smaller landing and it's cancelled early, it's not much effect. If it's the version with Sea Lion as full Sea Lion, you've just kneecapped the German army and its mobile divisions. 1981 asks, is it accurate that 1981 asks on YouTube, is it accurate that if the British were able to make over per year after factoring in the other colonies that equals what people like to claim the British got from India, i.e. 45 trillion, the empire wouldn't have wound down as it was since their debt would have been wiped clean several times over with cash to spare?
Okay, I'll just answer this question quickly with one thing. The
Cut.
45 trillion was the total income of the Raj before expenses. Most of that money went back into keeping the Raj under control. Because subcontinent spanning colonies are bloody expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, they are.
The gunnery officer asks opinions on the Ruddero and Butler.
Quickly, I'm being asked to nip round to the shop, so I'll be back in like 10-15 minutes.
She's going to the shop.
Okay.
Get me a chocolate bar. Like, get me some Twix.
How expensive those are these days?
Oh,
What
for your
isn't
left kidney.
expensive nowadays?
They're genuinely like
Okay.
£2 from most places these days.
Wow.
Back in a bit.
Anyway, so gunnery officer asks opinion on the Ruddero and Butler class DEs. Do you think they're the only ship class that were the true DEs, or the Edsall Cannon Dealing class were actual frigates for World War II and post World War II standard? Since both DEs were armed with 5-inch guns, or the other three had 3-inch guns, were more light armed than the two above. What makes a destroyer escort, for the US parlance, is it's a ship primarily designed for anti-submarine warfare work that's faster than a traditional ASW ship. So, if I'm not mistaken, Dragon, a Flower tops out at what? 20 knots on a good day with a following wind, I think.
Officially or unofficially?
Officially.
Officially, they top out at 16.
Unofficially, it's like 20, isn't it? They were clocked at.
Unofficially, 23.
Right, okay, but 16.
Uh,
But yeah, whereas most US DEs are breaking 20 knots. At least 21 knots. Most of them doing 24. And that's the real distinction. What makes a destroyer escort? I mean, the Everts are the slowest, that they are the first step at 19. Then the Buckleys go up to 24. You drop back down with the cannons to 21, but you're still 20 plus knots. And then you get the 2 5-inch armed shit, and then you get the Editals, which is 21 knots again, but again with the increasing capability of the ships. And then the John C. Butler and the Rudderos are 24 knot ships, where you bring in the 5-inch guns and torpedoes.
I mean, I think there's also the fundamental issue of there's no frigate designation during that period for the US.
That's very true as well. And
So
Yeah.
there's no
and-
comparison.
Yeah, and also, again, these ships were not designed to serve in the same role as RN frigates. Not completely.
Well, the Royal Navy also didn't have frigates.
During the Second World War, they did.
Nope.
Yeah, they brought,
Not officially classed as frigates.
They were.
Corvettes and sloops, right?
No,
The
the
Royal Navy did not tend to operate what's called frigates at this period. They were always classified as either sloops or corvettes.
River class frigates. Ah, okay. They were originally called twin screw corvettes. It was the frigates who were.
Yeah,
It's the Canadians who rolled in today.
see, yeah, that's what I mean. You are technically correct, yes, and I will say, because I've always heard them basically as the river class sloop or corvette,
Yeah.
but
But yeah,
and also
I
likely
think-
so it's not as confusing. But yeah,
But yeah, the whole thing with the DEs is that they were supposed to be highly independent. I mean, they could work with convoys and stuff, but the whole thing with the DEs was that they were supposed to be off with escort carriers as part of the whole US doctrine, which was ASW hunting groups, which would generally move at higher sustained speed, which required that if your sprint speed's 24 knots, your high cruise was in 16 to 18, which for a flower class, yes, while I know unofficially they could go much faster, if you asked a flower cast to try and hold 16 knots for any long period, problems. Problems.
Yeah.
But that's the main difference between destroyer escorts and
didn't realize that was the Indiana. No, mostly Montana.
Anyway, next question. Nice to do on. Well, when we talk about how the US threatened the UK at Suez, why is it grossly overlooked the sting in the tail that would come along with it? And what might those have actually been? As it will be seen as a betrayal, considering what OTL happened in the aftermath, and it's thought that if the US crashes the British economy, the British take the US economy down with them. No. If the British economy tanks, the US economy is going to be relatively unaffected.
Not true. Because we've discussed this one previously. That's why I said Fox is going to be Saturday missiles. No, basically, it was considered that if the US did deliberately try and crash the UK's economy, that Europe as a whole would take all their gold out from America and crash the US economy in return.
To be fair, though,
Basically, you've fine. You've punched us in the face, but we're going to kick you as we're going down.
To be fair, though, we were being a little bit silly with the Suez crisis.
The US were also being silly.
Yes, but it was basically the way
It's
with
been
the
silly.
way we handled it was shockingly bad.
Could have been better, but
When you piss off both superpowers to the point that they're both on that you've got the Russians and the Americans sitting on the same side, you fucked up in spectacular fashion. And this is coming as a Brit who studied that whole period. Like, genuinely.
yes, but
it
realistically
was a comedy.
speaking, if the US was being more sensible, it probably actually would have just stayed neutral, because technically it would have been in their greater interest. But
No, it would have been, but the problem is we basically left the door open for various back-channel negotiations by NASA, given the way we acted. That whole thing with Israel was an absolute farce. It would probably have been better if we'd have threatened force for the nationalization of the canal. Just done it openly. The US could have probably backed that. Because at least then it's open, it's fair, it's clear why we're doing it. This whole back channel thing with Israel just massively left a sour taste in both Russian and American mouths, and rightly so. It was scummy.
also a bit hypocritical though, that the US would then go punish someone else for that. It's typical politics.
It is. Make no mistake. It really is. But we really should have known better. For God's sake, we've been playing the game longer than they have. We should have known better. That's the main thing. We should have known fucking better. We left ourselves open to numerous pitfalls and then walked right into every single one of the buggers.
Yeah, if modernized Malta was at the Suez, things would be very different.
Honestly, given the state of aviation at the time, carrier aviation available to the RN, not really.
Yes, really.
They don't really grant any additional capability that the Audacious
Much larger air wing.
Yes, but the Audacious class that's there, the Audacious classes that are there, aren't.
Also, do you mean Audacious there?
I believe so. I believe it's them that are there at Suez.
I'm not sure they are immediately off the top of my head, because that Eagle or Ark Royal.
No, it's Eagle and Ark. Yeah, Eagle and Ark Royal are both ready for Suez.
As much as if they were actually there, I don't think, because what's it called? We know at least one of them are there with what's called Western Wyverns.
Yeah.
That's my point. So, and they didn't have them.
True, Bone Bilbo's right. It doesn't change the politics if you've got a Malta at Suez. Unfortunately, the problem is with the way we went about it. It doesn't matter how much force the British and the French bring to bear. The Egyptians have been granted control of the narrative, and that therefore means they can leverage the US and Russians against the evil imperialists, which is the main problem. And despite the fact the Egyptians are getting absolutely creamed militarily, doesn't change the fact that they had control of the narrative. And in an age where the radio was even more widespread than it had been before the Second World War, and that television was beaming news into people's homes with images for the first time in a major way, that narrative that they projected stuck. And that was all the Kremlin and the USA needed to act. Why not crash the US economy as preemptive action to Suez so the US could do jack shit? That's a good way to start a fucking shooting war in NATO.
No, it's not.
And also, how would you achieve that?
At Montana, very easily, you would take out all the gold from America and then start refusing to pay back the debts.
But again,
like, if you want to try and crash the US economy, there's various ways Europe has to do it. Is it smart? God's no. But you could do it.
I don't know why you would, but it's very silly.
And to be fair, if you guys are doing that right now, the Soviet Union is just standing over there rubbing their hands together.
Yeah, the Soviets are going, good, NATO's infighting. Brilliant.
The UK has more power in the US economy, and they probably had a hand in the Depression too. What conspiracy theory nonsense have you been smoking, gunnery officer?
No comment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Chandler. It's why it's the whole thing of, if the US, considering the US did want to crash the UK economy, it's why there was contingency plans to crash the US economy in return. Like,
by the way, welcome to a global economy.
Yeah.
The whole point was basically, if the US pushed things too far, nuke the US economy because they nuked ours.
By the way, all these economy nuking is not independent to the Western world. The Soviet Union is definitely being like, what the fuck, man?
The Soviet Union is going, we needed that.
Yes.
And if the global economy crashes, you could bet your ass someone's going to start shooting.
Yeah.
It's not just the UK, Montana. It's a combination of the UK, France, and various different agreements in Europe.
Like, this basically destroys any idea of post-war prosperity.
The point is, Britain, France, Germany, Spain, and a few of the others all take their economies out of the US. Which is enough to affect the US economy.
I mean, come on, the US economy was affected by one dude who's like, I want my money out of the bank.
Yeah. Typical gunnery officer asks, would you call the Grease gun the best SMG of World War II, since it's easy to operate, reliable, and has nice longevity?
No.
I wouldn't call it the best SMG, but I'd say it's a candidate for one of the more reliable and easy to use weapons. It's not got decent, it's not got good stopping power, and it's not what I'd call a world beater in terms of ammunition or fire rate. But it'll
not
mostly
good
work.
stopping power. Okay.
But it'll mostly work on you, and just it'll kill people reliably.
Wasn't that actually like one of its problems that it didn't?
it's not the most reliable SMG, but to be fair, the reason why it's mass adopted is because it was dirt cheap. It's dirt cheap, it works most of the time, and if you need a new one,
Get a
there's
new one.
about 200,000 in supply.
Hey Dave,
So reliability.
give me another 3 grease guns. My mind broke.
I'm not, honestly, the biggest issue I have was the fact that you called a grease gun with no stopping power.
Okay, yeah, 45.
Imagine
Well,
calling a 45 ACP no stopping power.
I mean, it
This
rained.
man wants a 50? Would you like a
Alright.
50 caliber submachine gun?
All right, you American gun
Well,
nuts.
I wouldn't say no, Moe.
Fuck's sake.
I mean,
But that's no
Fucking
longer really a
desert-
submachine gun at that
Fuck it,
point.
fuck it, 50 Action Express submachine gun. Same cartridge that the Deagle
Yeah.
fires. I mean, okay, I bet you some gun nut has made a 50 Action Express submachine gun.
Like, of course.
someone probably thought about it.
Yeah, someone has.
But yeah. Either way, best submachine gun? No. Best, most cost effective? It's up there.
I think it's got, for cost effective, it's got to be a tie between the Grease Gun and the Papasha 43. I think in terms of cost effectiveness, it's got to be a tie between those two. Because both of those were just very good, were just very cost effective weapons. Admittedly, the Papasha 43 lost the drum mag, so it's that. But was better in basically every way for an industrial scale war.
Yeah, but losing a drum mag is a good thing.
Yeah. But the drum mag, it's distinctive, it's iconic.
I know. Everybody would like to lug a 100 round drum mag with a Tommy
Oh, all right.
until they actually have to do it.
Yeah, fair enough. Knight6831 asks, how accurate is it that people who push UUV, USV, and UCAV replacing fighters and ships want a world like which games like Azure Lane show where UUV, USV, UCAVs replace manned fighters and ships? This is a repetition of the torpedo effect. In fact, it was something that was coined by someone in the dry dock, and I actually quite agree with once they explained it. What we're seeing is basically the torpedo effect writ large once again. The idea that a new system is rendering the idea of the old paradigm of warfare obsolete, and we need to rapidly change to this new system and paradigm, and it will completely obsolete the old paradigm, and nothing will ever be the same again. Whereas in reality, it will just become a new string in the bow of various militaries, and will complement the old existing paradigm, while providing new capability. The manned ship is not going anywhere, the manned fighter is not going anywhere, the manned tank is not going anywhere. The man is not going anywhere. The drone is here alongside, but the manned ship, the manned fighter, the manned tank, the manned IFE are not going anywhere. Simply put. And anyone who tells you that they are going anywhere is huffing the drone copium. Do not listen to these people. They are idiots. Does anyone have anything else to add to that?
I just don't get the Azure Lane bit of it. Because Azure Lane doesn't just use drones and such like that.
Drones are force multiplier. You still
They are
gotta
not
have
force.
Yeah, you still have to have the base force for the multiplier to work.
Oh, I do have an announcement. Dependent on scheduling. And I'll do this now while I've got people here before we wind down. Later on in the evening. What's the word? Oh yeah, so scheduling. We might have a Drac Ramblings next week.
This week?
Next week.
Okay.
Specifically discussing fictional ships and why they are, by that I mean in science fiction and everything else, why they're usually aggressively big, or not normal. why they usually anyway. So that's for next week.
That could be fascinating.
Yeah.
No, Star Wars isn't why.
No, it's not. It's specifically ships. It's not spaceships. It's specifically ships.
You did mention science fiction there, Fleet. That
Yeah,
probably
but
didn't help you.
sorry, fair enough. But there are, I believe, sci-fi ships. I think some of them.
No, most science fiction ships aren't actually that big. You get some that are nuts, but most of them are just basically.
And they mostly make sense in the settings anyway, which is not what we're looking at. But you have a point there, Dragon.
Like Ace Combat's got probably some of the biggest ones, which make no
Yeah.
sense. Like the multi-100,000 ton alicorns and
Yeah.
Synfaxes.
Yes. Why are we still here just to suffer?
Submarine.
Yeah. Typical gunnery officer asks, "What would you call the M18 Hellcat? Would you call the M18 Hellcat as the best tank destroyer in World War II if used correctly, especially its superior maneuverability? Do you think in some cases, like the Arakourt battle and subsequent Battle of the Bulge, where the Hellcat showed its true potential?" Oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, somebody get a picture frame. It is a rare gunnery officer W. He has hit it exactly on the nose. The M18 is the best tank destroyer of World War II.
No. Oh, this is fighting words.
Oh yeah, fine. It's perfect. Turreted.
It's
fast,
perfect for the way the US used tank destroyers.
which I would argue, if we're talking about tank destroyers with the M18 class, I would argue even outside of the US context, as a tank destroyer, not as a quasi-assault gun, not as a quasi-light tank, not as anything, as a tank destroyer, a thing that goes out and kills tanks, and that's its job primarily, the M18 is the best.
So, considering the fact that Stug exists says you're wrong.
No, the Stug is an assault gun, not a tank destroyer.
Stug 3 aus A,
Is an assault
I'd
gun.
agree with you. Stug 3 aus F,
Is an
I
assault gun.
disagree with you, because it's got a long anti-tank 75.
No, it's got a dual-purpose 75.
It's an assault gun.
But it is still a tank destroyer.
No, it's an assault gun.
Yes, it is.
It was pressed to be used as a tank destroyer because of the situation.
Because if we're talking about that, then the M18 is not a tank destroyer.
No.
M18 is designed as a light.
No.
No, M18 is designed as a tank destroyer.
Because
The
This
US
comes down to
wouldn't
what
accept an
are we-
open top light tank.
the question is, that comes down to what do you class as a tank destroyer?
Well, it's not.
No, what do you count as a tank destroyer?
I count as a tank destroyer anything that the nation building it classed it as a tank destroyer. So the German.
So the Germans who did class Stugs as tank destroyers aren't
No.
tank destroyers?
No, they're not. They're assault
They
guns.
classed them as
Sturmgeschütz, assault gun. A more accurate thing would be stuff like the Panzerjäger 1, the Marders. If you want to go with a fully enclosed armor tank destroyers, the Jagdpanzer 4 would be a good example. The Jagdpanzer 4 is basically what you imagine the Stug as. That is basically a tank destroyer with a short or long 75. That is the German tank destroyer equivalent.
purpose designed on the blueprint that says tank destroyer. Stug was pressed into
Well,
tank
in
destroyer
this
roles.
regards, then you've got basically no tank destroyers in World War II. So I guess if we're discounting most of them, then yes, I guess M18 is. Because then what else are we talking about?
What did you not listen to what Moe just said?
I did,
I-
and it's a case of you've now basically dropped it to like effectively 5 tanks primarily.
What?
I mean, yeah, because that's what a tank destroyer is.
I mean, I suppose if we're going to talk about this, that's basically you've got Panzerjäger 4, Nashorn.
Nope, Nashorn isn't classed as a tank destroyer.
Why is Nashorn not classed
It's
as a
classed-
tank?
It's classed as a SPG.
Yeah, silver gun.
Fair enough. Okay, so you've got Nashorn, Jagdpanzer 4, Jagdpanther.
You've got Jagdpanzer 4, Jagdpanther, Jagdtiger, Jagdpanzer 38T, and then if you're being generous, Elephant.
You've also got M10, Gun Motor Carriage 57.
Gun motor carriage is not technically a tank destroyer.
Gun Motor Carriage 57 is. 75, no, 57 is.
No, because gun motor carriage can also apply to stuff like assault guns.
Yes, it can, but when we're talking specifically about gun motor carriage 57, it was the original vehicle that the tank destroyer corps went into battle with as a dedicated anti-armor asset that couldn't be that could not be readily turned to other uses, unlike gun motor carriage 75. And then of course you've got M10, which is absolutely a tank destroyer. SU-85 and SU-100, those are definitely tank destroyers.
Assault guns.
No. SU-122 is. SU-152 is. ISU-152 is. Long
Initially
SU...
designed to serve as assault
No,
guns with capability.
SU-152 is not.
SU-85, and literally initial looks into it, initially designed to serve as an assault gun, was then realized capability for anti-tank role. SU-100, designed to improve the gun and allow higher penetration to concrete fortifications.
Most of the Soviet casemates are assault guns.
Fair enough. That's fine. I will consider myself corrected.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I can understand, because technically the SU-100 uses an anti-tank gun, but they use it as an assault gun.
You've got a point there. If I'm gonna talk about the Stug that way, yeah, I can't really. Fair enough. No, that's fair. Yeah, I've forgotten that the SU-85 and SU-100, despite their lean into the role, are still more assault guns than they are proper TDs. So the Russians don't really have one. So yeah, it's basically, I think, if we're talking dedicated TDs, does the Italian Simonti have 90 count? It's a bit of a kit bash, but and it can't do anti-air work, and it's too open to be a assault gun in a traditional sense.
The Simonti 75 is designed to be an SPG.
I'm talking about the 90, the big 90.
I'm just
Archer.
Archer,
yeah.
I did have Archer, but it's a case of no, Archer's not valid here.
Really?
Or
Royal Artillery.
Right. The reason why I say Archer's not valid there is because I'm not even going to include it in the competition, because, to be blunt, Archer bad.
I thought you liked Archer.
No, I actually am not a big fan of Archer.
Oh, really?
I think you can do funny things with it.
Who's the Archer defender? I know we have an
Winter.
Archer defender. Ah, yeah.
Winter very much likes it. Because I do think the Archer has purpose. I just don't think it's good.
I think if
And it's kind of shown to not be good in a lot of cases.
I think if the Germans
Archer's a-
had, if in some hypothetical world the Germans had somehow mustered, let's say, and this is just impossible, just roll with me here. If the Germans had somehow knocked the Russians out and the Allies were landing in the West and they delivered some sort of smashing counterattack to the Allies, then the Archer, with the way it's set up, might have been useful. But in the very much forward-focused role where the Allies were on the offensive, Archer kind of doesn't work.
Yeah, like Archer's good as a defensive piece, not good as an offensive.
Ironically enough, if you want to see the Archers doing really well on the defensive, look at their use in Egyptian hands.
Mhm.
Like that's actually a really good example of the Archers doing really well on the defensive. But yeah, no, Petch makes a good point. 17-pounder Achilles, that's a good British tank destroyer.
Arguably not really British, though.
It's still a tank.
I'm rolling that into the
it's
M10.
I'm going to
Yeah.
class that as M10 because it literally kept its M10 designation.
Okay, fair enough.
There's also Jackson.
Yeah,
Okay, M36 is a good thing as well.
but didn't really have much of a chance to do anything.
Yeah, the only, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of
This is why I say when you sort of boil it down to if you're taking out,
We're
most of
talking
these
low
things-
double digits. We're talking low double digits here, if that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you're talking
You're correct.
basically around 10ish at most.
And out of those, I do think M18.
I mean, you could start including non-track stuff, I guess.
But that's
You
why
do have that
personally,
6-pounder Porty.
it's why technically, but it's why at that point,
The reason I included the reason I included 6-pounder motor gun carriage is because that's not a porty. You can't take the gun. It's not mounted on a carriage with its wheels. 6-pounder motor gun carriage is an integral part of the vehicle. It's not a porty. That's why I included it.
Hey,
Firefly?
Nope, class as a medium.
no.
Fair enough.
What is the question?
Basically, is the M18 the best tank destroyer of World War II? Effectively, and
We've had to boil down
Since
what is tank
since Fleet's
destroyer,
since Fleet has disagreed with some of my choices, I went, okay, then actually define tank destroyer.
which is fair.
And Fleet's now realizing
I mean,
if you're going off Fleet's definition, there's really not many of
which
them.
is fair. He's got a point,
Yeah.
but it's fair. He's got a
Because we
point.
all know the best tank destroyer of the war was the M10.
I
What?
would personally rate the M10 higher than the M18 solely because it was used more.
Yeah.
18 is the Hellcat, right?
Yes,
and the
yes.
M10
Yeah.
is the
Yes.
Jackson.
No,
Yes.
no,
No,
M10 's
Wolverine.
Wolverine.
Wolverine/Achilles.
Okay.
Jackson's 36.
with the
Although
90.
it's basically same idea, same chassis, different turret with new gun. That's about it.
Yeah, I always basically taking a page out of the Chieftain's book. I always understood TD to be, in many ways, more of a role than it is a design designation.
Because personally, otherwise, I would genuinely put forward Stug 3 and 4.
Yeah, the reason that we're going
Because
with
they-
I would agree. They are very
Yeah.
good tank destroying vehicles. However, as a purpose designed tank destroyer, they are not.
Yeah,
That's
we
why I'm saying,
basically-
but
so
technically the
we
question
we
is,
have
is
had
it
to-
designed?
Yeah, we have had to boil it down to tank destroyer. To be fair, actually, you know, and I'm actually going to thank Dragon because it was actually nice to dive into, well,
Right.
what is actually, no, like normally I would
Yeah.
be annoyed, but I'm actually kind of glad it was a nice, let's have a look. What is actually,
Because
Yeah.
if you want to argue, technically speaking, the Japanese have a single tank destroyer,
Yeah,
yeah,
They
they
do.
do.
the Ho-Ri prototype.
What about the
I'm
whole
gonna
room?
jump in here quickly
Ho-Ri's
Sorry,
and
classified as
say,
Ho-Ri's
I
classified as
disagree-
SPG.
Is it?
Let
and I'll
Fox
just say that there's 3 best tank destroyers of World War II. And you mentioned the M10, but what were your other picks?
Well, I mean, my outright winner was, and I said at the start, it's a rare gunnery officer W. He quotes the M10, and I agree with him. The M10 is the
M18.
best tank. Sorry,
M18.
M18. Sorry, the M18 is the best tank destroyer of World War II.
Okay, reckon?
As said, I personally would go for Stug, but this is a case of what are we classing as TDs here? If
Yeah.
I'm limited to what we've selected, probably either M10 or potentially Jagdpanzer 4, but
Yeah,
that's
'cause-
just the roles that were used in.
because realistically, you want it like all battlefield vehicles to be multi-purpose but built for a primary role, not a hyper-specialized vehicle. They tend to be not particularly useful. But there's 3 best tank destroyers in World War II. The Su-152,
Isn't this tank destroyer?
as an assault gun.
It's classed as an assault gun. It's designed for breaking fortifications, not tanks. That's why it's been excluded from the list.
Same category as
Yes.
Stug.
but it fit a gun.
Nope, no Foxo. Afraid.
No,
We have
I
talked
agree
about
with you.
this.
yes, yes, which is why
I also agree.
I'm disagreeing with your characteristic that I'm doing a
I
bit.
personally
It's
agree,
either-
but
Okay.
It's
Continue.
the Su-152 because there is not a single vehicle on the battlefield better at killing any armor it comes across. Because there is no tank of World War II that can face tank a 6-inch height
I
loaded shell.
will disagree there, Foxo, solely because one thing, there's many things better because if that thing misses or something goes wrong, that's a very long reload.
Which is why the 14 units are thick. But
Mhm.
that's besides the point.
Yeah.
If you want
Continue.
them
What are your other choices?
that's the best at killing tanks and best at destroying tanks is the 152. If you want the best per cost unit, it's a mixture between the Hetzer and the Jagdpanzer 4, which were cheap conversions using pre-existing equipment, pre-existing chassis, and pre-existing guns.
Hmm.
But if you're looking for an anti-tank platform that can do everything and can knock out almost any armor on the battlefield, it's the M10. The M10 is the M18, but more all-around capable, aside from top speed. Because, it's resistant to machine gun fire.
There's technically one other tank destroyer that I haven't brought up, but we'll mention now just because it's stupid.
Go ahead.
The Romanian Marsal, or Marshal.
Oh, yes, the Marsal. Oh, I'd forgotten about the Marsal.
Okay, so fun fact about the M10. It's, unlike the M18, the M10's hull and turret was thick enough to protect against shrapnel from nearby artillery explosions. The M18 was not.
As far as I'm aware,
It's almost like the M10 is just a Sherman with a 3-inch gun in it.
As far as I'm aware, M18 was shrapnel proof and
No,
machine gun proof from the sides, and it was 50 cal proof from the front. It wasn't.
No, and no.
I think you need you to elaborate, Foxo.
So 50 cal, so 12.7 millimeters thick all round, back on the sides, slopes at the front. Upper hull armor.
12.7 ain't enough to protect against a 50 cal.
But it. Let's have a look.
Yeah, but it's not enough
In
on
fact,
the
wait,
plate
half,
to withstand
wait a moment.
repeated hits from
you said 12 point,
From what I
you said
understand,
12.7, right? 12.7 millimeter.
from what I understand, yeah, okay, so it's not resistant to direct 30 caliber or rifle rounds from the sides, but the weakness to shrapnel, from what I understand, was to do with the open top turret rather than shrapnel actually getting through any of the armor plate. From what I can see.
It
No.
also depends.
It also, if you go off post-war studies of shrapnel penetration from 105mm and 120mm guns, shrapnel, especially close-range shrapnel for detonation of an artillery shell within 5 meters of the vehicle, had more penetrative capability than a 12.7mm machine gun round. So if a machine gun can penetrate the plate, shrapnel can penetrate the plate.
There are random chances, basically.
Because a bit of metal going at Mach 4 is a bit of metal going at Mach 4.
She's got a point there. Right. So I think it's not as clear cut as we thought it was, but it's been a nice discussion on.
Can I just give an honourable mention for the best anti-tank destroyer?
Okay. If it's stuck, I'm going to kill you.
Well, these are a bit of a joke answer, but I'd like to
Clearly.
show you two. Most German half-tracks, the
Oh,
Universal Carrier, most trucks, and the M3 half-track.
oh, I've already done the auto gun carriage bit. Yeah, the half.
No, I'm
the
not
various
talking about. I'm talking about the M3 truck, because the biggest destroyer of tank was towed artillery.
Yeah, true. She's got a point there. Right.
I claim
Don't
claim the Jagdtiger, but that's just it.
Jagdtiger's funny, but
Yeah, Tiger's
Do
great
that.
until
Gunnery
it just
officer,
can't get to
that's-
where it needs to get to.
Gunnery officer, that is gun motor carriage 75, which despite
Yeah.
Well, somebody
despite being
else
issued,
already claimed.
which despite being issued to tank destroyer branch, falls more into a mixed use weapon platform.
It got used as a SPG a lot of the time.
Yeah.
now, admittedly, I would have loved to see some of the British prototypes have actually got built.
Would serve like a
If-
2-pounder on a universal carrier.
No,
Oh,
no,
Wesley
no, no.
just provided
No,
the
no,
worst
no, no,
answer
no, please.
possible.
You do not. Are you not aware of the Nuffield's AT series?
Oh no, not that. Not those things.
Yes.
Fuck's sake. Oh,
You
I love
will.
fighting 85.
You will enjoy your offset 80-pounder gun, with then
anyway.
with your extra secondary 6-pounder.
Would Sir like
Okay.
an
as your
ST?
secondary weapon.
And can we get one more set of honourable mentions
All right.
for the best tank
No.
destroyers of the war? Also known as the Panzer IV, the T-34, the M4 Sherman, and the the Cromwell.
No.
And the P-47 Thunderbolt.
No,
And the
no.
P-38.
No.
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 That's a different combination altogether. But Tank is very good at killing tank.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, to
1983,
basically wrap it up, the
yeah.
M18 is only really good under the US designation of tank destroyer.
Yes.
It is exactly what they want, and it's exactly what they operationally want. By the way,
And it turns out
Most
when
troops-
you use it operationally, the troops tend to like it. In the
Well,
operational
from
role it
what
was
I've
designed
read-
for.
From what I've read,
It's
most
just-
troops prefer the M10.
Not from what I read.
yeah,
We've
because
had a lot of
90% of the
different-
time, the M18s don't get to do their operational role.
Although at Aracore, they do absolutely slap Panthers.
Yeah, but because we're reading about the tank destroyers in southern Italy, it was, can we keep our M10s, please?
Yeah, well,
We
well,
get shot
gee, I
by
wonder
machine
why.
guns more than we do tanks.
yeah, in the Italian campaign, yeah, that is entirely understandable. Like, I totally get that.
This is
Anyway,
This is also the reason why Patton's Third Army is the only tank destroyer units that said yes, M18, please.
yeah, because those boys move. They do the movement.
They were the
They
one that
do-
drove through France at too fast of a speed.
Yes. 1981 asks, how much backlash would you get from the complete replacement of fighters and ships by UUV, USV, and UCAVs? Considering that you've basically gutted a national defense policy, destroyed near a century in some cases, and centuries, if not millennia, in some cases of tradition, and gutted large portions of your shipbuilding and aviation sectors, that would bring down a government. The dip already brought down significant portions of the UK government, and all that did was cancel one class of British destroyers. And that brought significant resignations from large portions of the defense staff.
I think the more important question is backlash from who? Because I think the rank and file, you're going to get different levels of like this. You're going to get different levels of backlash from different sectors. I don't think it would have if you're going to replace it with UAVs and USVs and UUVs that are as capable as their current manned components
You can't do
or
that.
counterparts, I should say. Regardless of whether or not you can actually do it. This is the weirdest traffic circle I've ever been in. Anyway, you're probably not going to get that much pushback on the construction and manufacturing side because you're going to be using pretty much the exact same infrastructure to build those assets.
It also depends on how you spin it to the public. You could outright just be like, look, drones the future, so we're building more drones.
We're saving British lives, or we're saving
amount of-
American lives.
Yeah, it's just, it really depends on how you spin it.
Yeah.
The
Anyway.
truth will only comes out when actual bad things happen.
I suppose.
Yeah, when you have an unmanned vessel or asset that suddenly, develops a fault in daughter board 1 Alpha Charlie 3, and suddenly it volleys off its entire slew of Harpoon anti-ship missiles on a random bearing, and they slam into, Princess of the Seas or something.
Hmm.
Fuck that cruise liner.
Yeah. Bowman Boy asks, what if during the Channel Dash, Sharnos and Ghanai's now decided to carry out passing shore bombardment on the British coast, possibly Dover? Let's say Hitler feels like it. How does this affect British reaction to the psychological impact of the Channel Dash? Congratulations! You have just sunk Sharnos and Gneisenau by running them into some of the thickest British minefields known to exist. How do you feel? You have basically made you have done Britain's job for them. You have saved the Channel Dash for Britain.
The entire point of the Channel Dash is that the ship sticks as close to the French coast as possible. I'm sure the British are gonna love it when you sail a bunch of German ships towards their own coastline.
Through incredibly thick
It's
British minefields.
And even
Hell,
if they
it's
survive the
safe.
minefields, I can hear the British destroyers that are packed away in every single southern port they can think of, just going, mine?
Oh, it's worse than
Mine?
that. Moving on. It's worse than that. If they approach Dover to bombard it, I think they'll come under an equivalent of 3 and a bit battleships worth of 9.2, 13.5, 12, and 14-inch guns. Most of which have radar guidance.
It also saves the
Okay.
Swordfish 10 minutes of extra flight time.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm just hearing the entirety of southern England's maritime shore defense assets.
Oh, yeah.
Just all I hear is mine.
Bang.
Yeah,
The ripple
Anyway,
fire.
Yeah.
the way this question is phrased make it sound like Bomeo Boy did not understand how wide the English Channel actually is.
Yes.
No, you cannot use battleship guns to shell from one coast to the other coast.
No.
The Germans clearly showed that you cannot do that. They have to build a very specialized gun to do so.
Yeah. It was
No,
basically...
you
not-
can technically at parts of it. The
This-
issue is you're not hitting anything of use.
Because this is technically true.
Yes.
There were cross-channel duels by defense batteries,
But it's worth pointing
like
out
just
these were
even normal gun batteries.
These were very niche and usually involved high-angle railway artillery. K5 on the German side, or some of their larger 16-inch weapons that they had. And on the British side, it involved some of their longer-ranged in-place naval guns with high-angle elevation.
It
But
is
it also
interesting why he
should-
chose Dover.
Because the interesting thing is, the ships that are doing bombardment off Dover, in the fouling bombardment in preparation for D-Day, so the ones that are shelling around the Dunkirk area where the Germans think the Allies are going to land,
Yes.
they were in a position where they could hit both the UK and France. It's just you've just got the issue if you're not hitting anything of value on the UK side,
Yeah.
and it's unless you hate a small flock of sheep on a cliff in Kent.
Congratulations.
A
Sir.
weird thing for the Kriegsmarine
Kriegsmarine.
to dislike.
Achtung, sir, I'm pleased to report the very valuable sheep farm of Crumpet has been destroyed.
Yeah, even then, one shell's going to hit the area, and the sheep are all going to run away.
Total victory for the Reich. Anyway.
Them Welsh guys, yeah, be like, how dare you
Wait,
hurt my sheep?
Oh, Jesus.
I'm sorry, Lee. Did you just start your little faux German thing with Achtung?
Might have done. Might have done.
That
Achtung,
the word
Panzer.
that means danger.
Oh,
No, don't.
It's
Caution.
danger or caution, isn't it?
Caution.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
it's attention.
No, usually caution or technically attention can be it, but primarily it's usually caution.
It's
It
just the
is
same
an
root word
intention-
as attention.
Yeah, it is a word that basically means, hey, pay attention to this because it will hurt you.
anyway, fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yes. Next.
So, yeah, next. 1981, what was the real reason the Lexington class being an Americanized version of Hood was rejected? Because as we discussed, I think it was either last week or the week before last, and we were discussing the design process and the lineage that led to the Lexingtons. That's not how the US saw its battlecruiser design proceeding, nor what also to get the speeds they wanted with the engine technology they wanted to use, and with the design profile and role they saw the Lexingtons fulfilling. They didn't want an Americanized Hood.
I see Knight has acquired for himself a new hyperfixation.
They wanted what became Lexington.
There we go. again.
Since we didn't touch on Hood when we were talking about the Lexingtons,
We did.
not in any meaningful way development-wise. HMS Hood and the Admiral class in general have way too much in common with the Lexingtons than anyone would like to admit. Because both had, in their original design specifications, cruiser-grade armor belts in single digits of thickness. Both were designed as cruisers first, capital ships never. Both were commerce warfare vessels. Both were capital ship standards, very lightly built. And both, because Hood comes from Fisher, and Fisher's design lineage that gets you the 6-inch armored renowned repulse, which shares a lot of similarities with why the Lexingtons were being designed. Not so much the Lexingtons were already an Americanized Admiral classes. They were a case of convergent evolution. Because high-speed capital ship with cruiser-grade armor but capital ship-grade guns isn't rocket science. And both navies had their use for it. Now, the Admiral class we got, which is Hood after her 3 redesigns. Technically 4, but functionally 3. The Lexingtons aren't an American equivalent to Hood. They're an American equivalent to the early Admirals.
Yeah, Fox was right.
Because they both do the same job. The difference is 1 inch of gun caliber.
I mean, Fisher would be overjoyed at a 35,000 ton 35 knot monster.
Let's consider that the original design for the Admirals called for 35 knots. The 6-inch armor belt.
Yeah.
I'm not
Which
saying
is
it's
stupid.
a Lexington-alike, but it's very Lexington-like.
Typical gunnery officer asks, opinions on the M26 Pershing in World War II. This is why having Foxo is good. Because, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna big her up for a minute. Foxo is the expert on British battlecruisers in the entire ship-shape community. Ahead of Drac, ahead of Dr. Clark.
No, not Head of Clark.
I'd say you
They
are.
can debate each other, but
I'd say she is.
And
Clark-
that's purely because I'm working off second-hand sources. Dr. Clark
Clark-
has access to the
yeah.
first-hand sources.
Doesn't
So
make
he's
it-
always going to be better than us.
He also has the knowledge to understand a lot more in the construction side of things.
doesn't make what you have to say any less vital. In fact, I'd say you present it.
that's not what Fox has said. But what Fox has said is though that she would say that Clark is ahead of her just because
Well, you let me.
he
pick
can
up the
more readily
box.
access the sources. And that.
She doesn't get
Yes,
enough
but
picking up.
She's at least making sure you're bigging her up correctly, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Because stolen
Fundamentally,
valor is
she's
bad.
still an amateur historian.
Heck, she's better than me. I'm not even an historian. Anyway, typical gunnery officer asks, opinions on the M26 Pershing in World War II. Do you think it's one of the best or best late Allied non-Soviet heavy tanks? Do you think it'll make a difference if they mass-produce and ship the Pershing into Europe by October or November 1944? A few key points to point out. Point 1. The Pershing is not a heavy tank. I know that the US Army classes it as a heavy tank in World War II, but if I'm being brutally honest with you, the M26 is a next-generation medium tank. It's in vain to some of the things we're seeing coming out of British, Russian, and even though the Germans don't get around to building it, German design plans for tanks 45, 46, things like the E50, the Centurion, the T-44. The US Army classifies it as a heavy tank basically because it's such a jump from the Sherman. Even the Sherman 76.
It's heavier than Sherman. That's it.
Yeah, it's heavy.
It's a heavy tank because heavy.
Yeah, but if we're being brutally honest in terms of role and how it's used, it's the next generation US medium, and of course, in the immediate post-war period, it is transferred into medium classification, and then of course, when M46 comes along, it becomes main battle tank. Which is
the simple way of saying it is there's two classifications for heavy tank. Heavy by weight and heavy by role. And the Pershing is a heavy tank by weight for the World War II period. Whereas, say, the Valentine, when used when fought alongside American troops, was called a heavy tank, despite the fact the Valentine is pretty fucking light.
I mean, fundamentally speaking, if you think about it, the M26 Pershing program spawned off of how to build better Sherman.
Yeah, it's an outgrowth of T26.
If I
Which is an outgrowth of T25, T23, all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
If I remember correctly, getting back to what I recall the original question, unmedicated, yay! The biggest problem with Pershing is Pershing wasn't compatible with engineering's bridges. It was too fucking fat.
Yes.
So if you can get, the question did not say that you were also getting Pershing's logistics and engineering trained to back it up in terms of the can we move and support this vehicle in the field. So cool, you have a bunch of much more advanced than the Sherman mediums or heavies, however you want to call them, that you can't move very fast.
Oh, congrats! You also need dedicated port infrastructure to unload them because they're heavier. Liberty ships can't unload them. Liberty ships can unload Pershings
just
themselves.
Unloading. It's loading and getting them to the port.
I know.
Pershings don't fit. Pershings don't fit on the U.S. flat cards at the time. They have to build new ones for them.
Yeah.
It's getting them out of the factory in the first place. That's operational logistical issue to start off with. There are plethora of issues with Pershings.
Yeah.
Even in the state that it rolled out. If you try to push it even earlier, American troops are going to curse you for even bringing that over.
Yeah.
And that will completely kill the entire lineage the M26 Pershing has. The US will probably go down a very different route of tank development, honestly.
Yeah.
Although it would be interesting to see how the mythos around, like, let's assume you can get a successful Pershing rollout for D-Day. Let's just hand-wavium that into existence, okay? I know it's laughable. I know it's impossible. I understand all that. Let's just hand-wavium it into existence, okay? It would be interesting to see what impact that would have on the perception of things like Panther and Tiger, because you now have something that hits a heck of a lot harder than the base 75 Shermans do
Hang on.
from the get
Are
go.
we-
And I think, hang on, I think
Yeah, go ahead.
Pershing was better protected than 75 Sherman.
A lot.
Than the kit. It was not.
I mean,
It was a lot more protected.
Okay.
technically, but it's not protected against German 75 and 88, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The advantage
There-
is that it's protecting against the sort of middle barrel length 75s. And reliably protecting against the 50s.
It's also quite
So
good.
you have better protection from anti-tank and Panzerfausts.
Pack 40, I think it's protected against at decent
Yeah.
ranges.
Yeah, Pack 40 and short 88s.
88, I'm gonna push back.
Not
on.
short 88s.
Yeah, hence, are you short 88s as in the anti-aircraft 88s?
Even so,
It's better
that
protected than Centurion. Centurion was protected against 88s, so this is part of its design specification.
I wouldn't call Pershing better protected than Centurion.
Would you know?
Not really. It technically has thicker frontal armor. Well, okay, the piece of metal is thicker, but it's on a really, really flat angle, honestly, for a tank standard. Pershing, in my opinion, is the closest thing to Pershing is a Tiger, honestly, sadly to say, in terms of armor layout. It is honestly a box. It's a slightly better slope box, but it's a box.
Because,
I thought Pershing had a. Go ahead, Foxo.
because from what I've read, I ain't read it nearly as much about it as I've read other stuff. The up-armored and the field-armored Shermans were more resistant to anti-aircraft 88s than field Shermans, than the standard M4s. And
I think that should. Go ahead.
And the Pershing is better protected, especially in the turret, than the field modified and up armored Shermans.
The turret, yes. The turret's it's a full cast turret with fairly decent thickness all around. So geometrically speaking, the Pershing turret is definitely better protected. But the hull itself, so part of the side is definitely thicker than a Sherman. It's they split it in half because it's the front half's 3-inch and back half is 1.5 or something like that. But the big issue mostly comes down to the frontal armor, because for a 50-ton tank, 4-inch armor slope at like 35 degrees, if I remember correctly. That is exceedingly underwhelming for a 1945 tank when you consider most of the other options out there. Centurion comes with a 3-inch slope at 55. It has more effective armor than a Pershing front.
Fair enough.
And we could all agree Centurion is there are much better protected hull than a Centurion at 45. Panther has a better front hull. T-44 has a ridiculous frontal hull for a medium tank. Pershing's frontal hull is kind of disappointing for what it is.
Yeah, because the Pershing had
Um,
46 degrees,
We
not
are having
35.
a good time, but we are getting into the weeds of Pershing here rather than anything related to the question.
So
We're
can I just
discussing
quickly
if it's the
ask
best tank.
But we are getting a little bit into the.
So Petch, I get my sources from a lot of literature and Dragon's Expedition to Tynomere archives and their online archives. I sent him to the rice fields of
Need to head back.
central Newcastle.
We've got various different fun source things I need to look into at the moment.
Still gotta find me the stuff on the Mark III gun turret.
That's why I said I need to
Oh.
head back there.
Okay, one of the audience members, a German chap who I've met recently, apparently says he does have stats for the performance of the short and long-barreled 88 flak.
Oh, nice.
Is
Is
he,
he on
is he,
Discord?
is he the guy
He's
that
here.
messaged me?
It's just coming up now. I just invited him up to speak.
Because if he's the guy that messaged me, I'm driving.
It's fine. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
I accidentally messaged you because you also feed off oceans.
He meant to message me.
Don't
Like,
Yeah.
I am
actually,
feet.
I had some documents that I read, and there they said on a 30 degrees angle the flag, the anti-air gun 88, is basically has a penetration power of basically 100 millimeters of tank armor, and the pack, the anti-tank gun, is around 165 to
At 30 degrees.
193. No. Millimeters depends on the type of ammunition. So 165 millimeter for standard, and 193 for how it's called armor piercing on 1,000 meters with a 30-degree angle, and around on 500 meters there were I can show them real quick up. Wait a second.
The man has sources. My God.
Yeah.
Actual
He has
professionalism.
the sauce.
Actual
some-
professionalism in my ramblings.
Yeah. So basically, on a 500 meters, there's basically 10% better, and on I think the double, basically 10 to 20% worse. So yeah, the flag basically 100 millimeters, and the pack around 165 to 193, depends on the ammunition type.
So basically, Foxo was actually right. Yeah, Pershing is fundamentally proof against.
Won't be proof it be resistant because you've got to take in the margin of error.
Thank you, Ikbin. Pleasure.
Thank
having-
you.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem.
thank you. Always
No
happy
problem.
to have you. Yeah, damn, nice.
Now
okay.
Get out.
No, he could stay up if he wants, to be fair. Anyway, but he went down. That's fine. And 1931 asks, so when did it become clear the days of the ironclad battleship was coming to an end? About 1944-45. And I say that, and that's not hyperbole, that's not a joke.
Okay.
That's not hyperbole, that's not a joke, let me explain. If you look at
Yeah,
the...
he needs to
if-
explain that one.
If you look at the period from Warrior onwards and you try to pinpoint exactly when the ironclad battleship ended, it's basically impossible to pin down in any real sense. Because there's the development line from something like Warrior through the central turreted casemate ironclad period through to the early beginnings of what we call the modern battleship, the early modern battleship, through to what some call the pre-dreadnought period, through the dreadnought period, through the super dreadnought period, through the interwar period, through to the Second World War, and then towards its ending. It's an almost semi-continuous line of development. There are occasional breaks, but the overall persistent theme is semi-continuous. There's not really there's not really a significant enough break between what I would consider the last generation ironclads and the beginnings of the modern battleship where the ironclad designation was dropped for me to go, it ended. Because to be brutally honest with you, the idea of a battleship that the ironclad represented, aka a ship armored to resist either its own guns or those of its opponent, propelled by steam propulsion, didn't end until the navies decided to stop building such ships. And that was the aftermath of the Second World War.
By that
45.
They're still in service today.
Yeah, the
No, they're not.
you have an argument, yes, but what it took to fulfill that requirement changed radically with this little vessel the British launched called Dreadnought.
No, not really. She's still a ship that Dreadnought's not a radical change.
Ronald said it really poorly. Can I say it? Rephrase it. The defining thing about a warrior that splits her from the ships that came before is that she's made out of iron. If you're gonna go off the loose definition that you're going off of, that ironclads, it doesn't matter. Say one of the things that people used to define ironclads is they're either made of armor or steel. But if you go off, they're made of iron, and they're used in they're used to make large surface ships, large surface warfare ships, then you can apply that definition to any warship that comes after Warrior.
You know,
Because a carrier,
you've removed
if you go broad enough, does the same job as a battleship.
You have artificially broadened what I have said to support your own point. I said ironclad battleship. I did not say ironclad. I used the specific terminology the question used. If I had broadened it to just say ironclad, then yes, you would be right. But I didn't.
But you brought in role. And just because we don't call them battleships anymore doesn't mean they don't fulfill the role of a battleship.
No, that's...
And a large surface combatant.
No. Like, we're specifically talking ships of a certain role here. If it had said the Iron Warship, then yeah, you'd be right. But no, we're not. We're talking about the Ironclad battleship here, and the era of the vessel and paradigm that was defined by the Ironclad battleship ended in 1945. Ended when the last battleships stopped being built. Yes, the survivors sold it on.
Well, but no, because by that logic, since the cruisers exist today, then we still build ironclads today.
No,
because ironclad battleship isn't a strictly defined term. It's a lot like the phrase super battleship.
No, and again,
because people had, even in the period, battleships, cruisers or frigates.
There is a reason why I defined the term deliberately as what I was talking about when I was saying this. I deliberately defined the term. I said,
and if you listen to me,
vessel...
I'm saying that your definition there is flawed.
That's not something you get
because
to say.
Because all a ship like Warrior and Dreadnought have in common is the fact they're made out of iron.
No.
Arguably saying made out of iron is generous.
No,
Dreadnought's made out of
steel. Not at all.
If I can have a second bite at the apple for a minute here, you have between Warrior / War, whatever, you know what I mean, and the ship of the line. And this is going to take a minute, so don't interrupt me. And the ships of the line that preceded her, you have a notable step change in both the strategic and tactical doctrine of how those ships are implemented. We see this again once you get to the division between the Royal Sovereigns and Dreadnought type ships. You have another step change in the strategic and tactical doctrine of how those ships are used. Because where with a Royal Sovereign type or a Warrior type ship, you want to get close so you can maximize your hit potential, because your fire control systems are the Mark I eyeball and your gunnery team's instincts versus the highly complex firing tables and rangefinders you start to see deployed at Dreadnought. That is a major change in how those ships are designed, how those ships are trained on, and how those ships are operated.
No. No.
Yes,
No. No. That's
Yes.
such a fundamental misunderstanding of the development
It's
of
not.
the battleship. I can't even.
I mean,
The-
it is, but
frankly-
I'm not the one who's misunderstanding it.
Yeah,
The-
but quite
I
frankly,
mean, there is the
Ironclad
biggest
battleship.
I mean, okay. First things
Ends.
first.
No, no, no,
Dreadnought.
no, no.
Dreadnought is still fundamentally a ship designed to stand in the line of battle with its contemporaries, with guns and armor designed to pierce the armor of its opponent, with armor designed to either resist its own guns or those of its enemies, and designed to defeat its opponents primarily through the application of naval gunnery.
but not clad in iron.
Yeah.
There's the
That's-
fundamental issue. He said ironclad.
Yeah, considering
means
But the development
All
line that's-
definition requires the ship to be clad in iron, not a steel ship clad in iron.
It's something made out of iron. An
No,
iron
it's something.
No.
No, it's something wrapped in iron,
Yes.
not made out of iron.
And so,
And fundamentally speaking, what you have defined for your definition is wrong because you've clearly ignored the first part of the designation.
right, okay, I've got it. Okay, right, fine. When ironclad, what do you say ironclads are done? Likely with the Royal Sovereign class, they realized it was no longer effective because the next ship class, the Centurions, were built using a compound armor scheme and no longer wrought iron.
Well, compound armor was a thing way
That-
before that.
Is the correct
No,
answer.
but they weren't just iron. Most of those other ships' compound arms were just compounds of different iron.
No.
Like-
Compound,
they introduced
no.
a different.
compound armor is specifically in reference to iron and steel plate mixed together, and that was a thing on. And this is where the problems come in. Compound armor was a thing, and specifically iron and steel plate, was a thing on warships from about the early 1880s.
1890s primarily, but
No, 1880s. There were. I mean, Lepanto had it first, and Lepanto had it
Yeah.
first.
Because the transition period is when people go from iron, a wrought iron, you get
To
the
a whole
composite
steel.
armor, then you got it where they sort of standardize on either high nickel steel or a steel alloy.
which
Be it
is
if that's
1890s.
early Krupp, which because it's steel armor, that means armor belts go from 18 to 21 inches thick down to 9 inches thick. Allows a massive change in how you design, how you use those ships.
I mean, fundamentally, the driver behind the change in, well, even then, the battle doctrine doesn't really change. It just the range at which you engage in it changes. If I'm being
But
brutally honest.
if you define it by battle doctrine with iron plating
Well, no, I'm
or
not.
metal
Well,
plating,
well-
a significant portion of the Napoleonic period, those ships, the line, and those frigates start classifying as ironclad.
no, they don't have engines or armor plate.
Ironclads don't necessarily. refer to
There were
engines,
wooden
but-
ships to the line before Warrior that had steam engines.
But they don't have armor plate.
And metallic plating, a lot of them had
Okay,
copper-
now you are
copper plating
deliberately
on the
being
under- no, no,
facetious.
No, it's
on the
called.
underside of the ship and had iron plates and iron fittings on the waterline around the gun decks to protect them.
You are being deliberately facetious now.
I'm
It's,
not.
the description of ironclad is a very iffy term unless you go purely. It is clad in a layer of armor of iron. That's
what
it.
I'm trying to make
Not
is
doctrine, not gunnery, nothing else. Just it is
Yeah.
ironclad, therefore it is clad in iron, not steel, not compound, iron.
Yeah, and Fleet, I'm sorry to say, but the definition you created
It's
is
valid.
No,
it's so broad as to be useless.
I fundamentally
because it
disagree with that
counts.
statement.
No, it counts SMS Kaiser with her low power cylinder steam engine, and iron plating.
No, it doesn't.
It has the same justification for being
No.
an ironclad
No, it doesn't.
then as Dreadnought does.
No, it doesn't. Because she's not.
I would
does.
argue Dreadnought
She's
isn't an
not-
ironclad.
She's not protected against her own guns.
Yes, she is.
No, she's
That
not.
part doesn't matter.
It's the whole thing.
Yes, it
the battle
does.
she's famous for taking part
Ironclads
in.
aren't protected against their own guns.
Yes, they are for the most part.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
This was proven a lot.
No, they. The whole thing with the ironclad battleship is that it was protected against its own guns.
Yet it was proven this wasn't true.
What are you talking about? But at normal battle ranges, which is the whole point when
HMS Warrior was
which-
not protected from steel shot from her own cannon.
at normal battle ranges, she was. They had-
Yes, she wasn't.
No, she was.
That's who they run into.
No, she was. They had to close to get shot through her. At the ranges they were expecting to fight, apart from a real close-in melee, she was protected. The whole
And in
thing.
the period she's built in, the close range melee is
Okay,
the battle
right.
tactic
No,
of the
no,
day.
Foxo. No, Foxo. So, an excellent example of this is the Dulio class ironclad. Are you familiar with it, Fleet?
I am very familiar with the Dulio class.
It is not
ironclad.
protected from its own guns.
Well, yes, obviously. But that was the deliberate choice.
Therefore, well, no, it wasn't. It's because they couldn't armor the ship against those guns.
But she is protected from the
And
gun.
there's multiple other ships as well also are not protected from their own guns.
But there is also the other side of that, which I did say when I wasn't making the whole definition, which is all protected from the guns of their contemporary opponents. Which
the
Star
Dulio is
Wars
not
are.
protected. The Dulio is not protected against the contemporary of its age.
Aside from inflexible, she is.
Why does all this matter?
Yeah.
The definition of the term ironclad battleship is a ship clad in iron that does battle. Why does penetration comes into anything?
Because it matters, because...
Because
It doesn't.
No, it does.
we're
Literally,
working
ironclad.
we're working with a very interesting
in iron.
definition.
My
Right,
Arguably-
right,
arguably,
let me
like,
explain.
Foxo, let me-
I want to do a
Oh,
ridiculous
let
point
me
here, please.
please.
Fine.
if you're trying to get me to
Literally-
admit that I'm wrong, you're not going to.
Literally, the description from a naval historian, Richard J. Hill, which is relatively considered okay of one, even if it's not fully accurate. An ironclad must have three of its three chief characteristics: a metal-skinned hull, a steam propulsion, and a main armament of guns capable of firing explosive shells. Only when all three are present can a fighting ship be called an ironclad. No penetration, no defenses, just can it fire explosive shells? Yes. Does it have a metal-skinned hull? Yes. Does it have a steam propulsion? Yes. That's all you need for an ironclad.
Well, metal skin hull isn't enough. It needs armor plating as well.
No, it like as long as it has a metal skin, or even if you include a an iron armor belt, that is still not a thing of must be able to have an iron armor belt able to resist X, Y, Z. It's just must have an iron belt. It is literally iron
Yeah, iron belt. Yeah, that-
clad.
well, yeah, that's belt armor. That's not the metal skin.
No,
it's belt
No,
armor.
no, okay,
Clad
okay,
in
right,
iron.
right.
No,
If you
go on.
go with ironclad, that means the definition stops at anything with an iron hull. That's when you can apply the definition, anything with an iron hull. If you go up iron plating, you can count pre-warrior and some pre-warrior and Gloire ships of the line as ironclad,
Which you really shouldn't.
which breaks the entire definition. Because some of them had steam engines,
Mhm.
guns that fired explosive shot,
Mhm.
and iron plating, and iron armor used to
Ironclad.
protect the lower gun deck,
No, I mean,
which by definition would make it an ironclad.
there are numerous definitions here, and there are some of them that are wrong, but not all of them we've said are wrong. Mine technically works, but it's not the only definition, and nor should it be considered the only definition of what an ironclad battleship is.
Yeah, but right. Your definition works in the same way that every ship that is capable of shooting at something is a battleship.
Not really. No, it depends on well.
Yeah, because
Depends.
battleship, a ship that engages in battle, every single warship afloat is a battleship.
This is the exact same argument we had earlier with tank destroyers.
Well, that was
Your definition have
Okay.
increased the
Oh.
count of tank destroyer to include assault guns in essence.
no, that's different.
All in favor of permitting fleet to die on this hill, say aye.
Yeah.
We should move on,
Next question.
yes, or else it will take forever for this argument to end.
I mean, it would never. We just go around in circles.
Yes,
and I would go
correct.
Yes,
further and
I-
further
I
back in
picked up on
time,
that.
justifying why ships from the 7 Years' War are technically ironclads.
Timu asks, how would World War II have played out if the British Empire had acquired 40... This is a nice question to end on, actually.
Okay.
Timu asks, how would World War II have played out if British Empire acquired 40k Emperor-level technology in 1938? The Germans are fucked. The Germans are fucked. Germans are fucked. There is no
Germans.
Berlin
Anschluss.
becomes a smoking crater.
British Empire 40k Emperor level technology is just a question of what's stopping the British Empire from becoming the whole globe instead of 1/4 of the globe.
Well, domination.
I'm sorry, but
That,
all I
that
see
means
with
I
this,
have to deal
is
with
that- the fundamental truth is Birmingham, the city in England, will become like Birmingham, the planet, from 40k.
Yeah, what were you saying?
That's an
Ruinon?
improvement.
I would have to learn how to deal with pre-decimalization British pounds. God help me.
The entire galaxy will be run off of pounds.
Which basically means if warp, if the warp exists. Oh no, the Germans, the Nazis having access to the. Oh no! Oh no!
What do you mean? They don't
Churchill
have
would
access.
No, if the warp, no,
Churchill would be taking us to Pound Town.
no, if the warp drive exists, the warp has to exist. If the warp exists, Nazi occultists are gonna find a way in.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is the standard timeline with 40k tech. The Immaterium isn't
Yeah.
fucked,
If
so it's incredibly hard to
if
get
it's-
into the Immaterium.
if it's any time,
This wasn't.
if it's any time past the war in heaven, the Immaterium's pretty fucked.
No,
But the
it's
war in
not.
heaven didn't
The-
exist in the real world.
Also too the Immaterium was relatively stable up until the birth of Slanesh,
Yes, it
Which
technically
is
was.
what caused Long Night,
Yes,
which is what caused the fall of the Golden Age and Long Night.
Yeah, so before
technically-
reality tumors don't exist, there's going to be nothing to open the door from the other side to Psychers.
The enslavers would like
Which
a
is-
word.
Yeah, they
they
would,
don't,
because
yes.
they couldn't do the same thing demons could. And that was, you do a ritual, you pull a crack in the door, the demon kicks it down. The enslavers couldn't do that.
But they did it in the aftermath of the war in heaven.
No, they didn't. They're warp-based predators. They prey on other warp-based entities.
What about the whole
Majoritively.
enslaver, how was Slanesh born? Go and look that up yourself. I'm not saying that on this channel. That is a nope. We're not even.
So there's shut up. There's the meme answer and then there's the serious answer. Basically, the Eldar were pursuing everything to such excess because they were a highly psychic race. They basically built up a pressure wave in the warp that resulted in the paracausal creation of Slanesh. They did not just murder sleep their Slanesh into existence. It was a lot. It's why one of the reasons why the Emperor's children fall to Slaanesh is because of their excessive level of martial pride and perfection and their pursuit thereof.
Slaanesh, when you take the meme out, is... So, there's a really good quote from one of the Inquisitor books. Can't remember which one it's from. But it's talking about how Slaanesh corruption starts. And it's... You give a 5-star Michelin star meal to a poor peasant. And that will be the most exquisite thing they've ever tasted. But a group amongst mortals will always want that thing again. But you can never experience that first time again. So you escalate. And you escalate. And you escalate, chasing that first high. And then it escalates to the point where you're eating your children just to feel anything. Because when the Eldar created Slaanesh, they couldn't die. They would always be reincarnated. For the majority of Eldar, things became grey. They stopped feeling anything because nothing was new. So they went to the extremes, the excesses, just to feel something. And in doing so, they turned into monsters. Now, when you do that as a psychically active species on a galactic scale,
there were billions of them, or
it
trillions.
forms basically a singularity in the galactic psychic field. And then that detonates, like Runo said, in a pressure wave. And it gives birth to basically a paradox of Slaanesh will always go to greater and greater and greater excesses. Because it has to. That's... If you stop chasing the next high, it ceases to exist. In the same way that if that Khorne follows a Khorne, always seek the next battle. The next battle has to be bigger, bloodier, claim more, be better.
The existence of Slaanesh
You get
fundamentally...
trapped in the cycle.
Yeah, the creation of Slaanesh fundamentally broke the Chaos Gods as they existed prior to her. It.
Yeah, and it's basically the Chaos Gods fundamentally are when a concept exists purely to make more of itself. Excess to make more excess. Decay to make more decay. When you plot to make more plots.
Whereas prior to
And
her...
when you're a tyrant, to do more tyranny. When you're order, to create more order.
Yeah, whereas...
When you've lost sight of that end goal.
Yeah, whereas prior to... And the thing is, most of the gods have forgotten this. Prior to the creation of Slaanesh, the gods were aspects of and reflections of the things that made them up, rather than being purely beings desirous of more of all that they were. They just were.
But it's more of a... They always wanted to be more than they were, because Khorne, currently, according to law, was born by the War in Heaven, war for the sake of war.
Well, no, the War in Heaven wasn't war for the sake of war. It was... Like, the War in Heaven did have a
For
purpose.
the Necrons, no. But for the Eldar and the Orcs, who were created for the purpose of waging war,
True.
and their entire existence was waging war,
Yeah.
the Eldar create Khorne.
Yeah.
And the issue is before the birth of Slaanesh, it was a negative feedback loop. Khorne would not gain more power from making more war. So it ebbed and flowed as the galaxy, as well as the galaxy ebbed and flowed. Hence why Khorne became really active, what we know, in the conflicts at the Man of Iron started. Because that was a galaxy-spanning civil war done with machines beyond our comprehension.
Although not
Where
all
the
of them.
stars are fuel, mecha wars are horrific.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, although it's worth pointing out that it wasn't every Man of Iron, and it was very much a...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. The whole Man of Iron war was weird.
it's because we don't know a lot about it.
And also,
the
it's,
issue with that's
fun
right, I
enough
just
as well.
finished
Fun.
the explanation.
can I also just say something
No,
quickly?
Oh,
Very,
let
very, very
Foxer
quickly.
finish.
This
Yeah,
is
let me
related to the Man
finish.
of Iron. It's very quickly, really quick.
No. Right, no, 'cause I need to hit both Iron's hot for
Okay.
this. The birth of Slaanesh is excess for the sake of excess. But the galaxy of 40k is so fucked because the fourth Chaos God flipped the equation from Khorne making more war, expending more power to create war than he gets from war, to Khorne spending less power to make more war and getting more than he spent in return. So it becomes a positive feedback loop. So the more the galaxy fights, the more power Khorne gets, the more power Khorne is able to put down into causing the galaxy to fight more.
Just very
But yes,
quick,
go on, please.
very quickly on the Men of Iron conflict. A lot of others, a commonly held belief among 40k people, from what I understand, that basically all AI will eventually turn on its creators. From
No.
what I understand, from what I've read, this is actually not true. From what I understand, the whole thing with the Men of Iron conflict is that, from what I've read, and this could be old lore, and I could be wrong, but from what I've read, the Men of Iron conflict was something specifically caused by the Eldar to stop the rise of humanity by injecting certain Men of Iron with a virus
No.
to cause them to rebel.
Fanon.
No, that's more fun. That's the Fanon interpretation. And also
the
the whole
answer is
thing.
we don't know.
Also, well, we do actually know bits. Also, the whole bit about how all AI will inevitably, try and destroy the Masters. Also, Fanon. We know in particular that the Men of Iron Rebellion did have Xenos involvement, but we do not think they are the reason why. From what little information we have on the period, it seems to basically have come down to one side wanted something, one side didn't. Because it's why we know Men of Iron fought on both sides of the conflict.
It's why the interesting thing is, and this is what we do know for sure, at the early part of mankind's psychic awakening, when humans start to become psychers, happened at the same time or just before the Man of Iron revolt.
Some sources do actually say just after, though, for the I will point
Yeah.
out.
So either the camps of AI rebelled because AI rebellion, or the other popular theory is that the Men of Iron were built to protect mankind. Mankind became psychers. Psychic predators started preying on mankind. So, in general, the Men of Iron saw psychers as a threat to their creators. So they started purging psychers. People tend to not like it when you go murdering their friends. And shit got out of control. Because the only source we have that claims the Eldar started it come from the Eldar themselves.
That's what I want to do. I think. Oh, yeah. Yes. No. Sorry.
And
They like taking credit for things they didn't do.
yes. And this is
We
an
do also know-
Eldar that was born significantly after the birth of Slaanesh.
Fair enough. And I mean, I will point out that basically, we can also, I mean, humanity. I wouldn't like a lot of the human hatred for the aliens. I think is more propaganda than it is anything else. But
No,
no, but
we know why that is.
no, but the hatred for the Eldar. Yeah, no,
deserved.
that's yeah, absolutely. Like humanity was just recovering from the Men of Iron rebellion, and then the Eldar do their funny.
It's not just the Eldar, though. It's a lot of alien races of the Federation turn on humanity, which is why the xenophobia becomes ingrained. Then when Long Night occurs, you have a lot of aliens start attacking what few places of humanity were able to cope.
Wait, so
with the
basically,
whole
wait.
situation.
So humanity does pull a whole Star Trek Federation-y bit
Yeah.
for the first bits of its existence, with all the aliens and happy-go-lucky
Yeah.
fun times.
Yeah.
And
Because you've got to remember,
for
that
nearly 25,000
from
years, it's
Nightworld-
good.
yeah, from Nightworld, we know that the humans who survive the fall of mankind are the incredibly xenophobic, racist, basically space Amish.
Oh,
Now, I will say some normal ones did survive, but
Because,
problems
for
with
example,
this.
we know in Nightworlds where, because they were incredibly hostile to outsiders and change, they shot psychers on sight and they shot aliens on sight.
And
This
they were
means
using-
they survived significantly better than the planets that didn't.
would an example
Because
of
they're the ones that survived, they went on to repopulate mankind.
pre-fall humanity, as best as can be described, be the Interrex?
We don't know.
yes,
What? We don't know.
they are a better example by 30k standards of we can live in peace with aliens.
I mean, it's almost. I mean, the fact that they very nearly cause Horus to go before obviously Erebus contrives the whole war bit. Fuck Erebus.
Okay. Secondly, a better interpretation, I think, would be the Votan for a significant portion of mankind before the fall. And that's because we would consider what mankind became alien to us now.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Like it was a proper full post-utopian, or almost post-utopian state for like nearly for nearly. I think it was the age of exploration was 5,000 years, and then it was for nearly 15,000 years. It was just post-utopian idealism.
Yeah. But and this is just Slaanesh isn't just let's get back to Slaanesh quickly. Slaanesh isn't the goddess of drugs like Montana's saying and that sort of thing. It's excess in a much more broad way.
Which can be a real bad thing.
For example, this is from one of the Codex Demons. Example, a blacksmith who spends their entire life chasing perfection with their craft is feeding Slaanesh. And is, should the circumstances arise, in danger of falling to Slaanesh.
An army general who's focusing on getting the best out of his troops he can is technically feeding Slaanesh.
Slaanesh basically
A
broke.
guitarist practicing fire.
Go on.
A
You're on.
guitarist practicing through the fire and the flames to a level of note for note perfection is feeding Slaanesh.
Yeah.
Slaanesh basically broke the universe, to be brutally honest with you.
Yes, it's
Yeah. It was the thing that inverted the equation of the warp that made it self-sustaining.
And the Emperor had to basically nearly break and shackle a species to his will and try to kill every other psychic that wasn't broken and shackled to his will to try and break it back to normal.
I won't go. I won't take that interpretation.
I
That's a
mean-
very. So if we go off some of the Horus Heresy stuff with Emperor and stuff like when he goes to meet the Chaos Gods in the portal on what's its place. Oh, what's the world called?
The one that
If-
that they get told they're not allowed to go to again.
Yes,
Not
but
Sponsor.
the Emperor, with hindsight of later knowledge that we know, is operating on the assumption the Chaos Gods are working on the principles that Korn, Nurgle, and Zeech worked off. Where for every action they do, they lose energy. So you can beat them, you can outlast them.
Well, apart
Bollock.
from Nurgle.
But apart from Nurgle, but even then,
Also, if you need an actual answer to that, Montana, me and Foxy can try and talk about it post ramblings.
but and the Emperor is acting off the old paradigm.
Are you telling me the Emperor didn't actually clock the change in the warp? Is that what you're saying? The Emperor actually missed the paradigm shift. I'm not saying you're wrong, it's just that's a huge
Yeah.
deal.
Because the paradigm shift didn't take place immediately. The paradigm shift took place over several thousand years.
And by the time he came to launch his Great Crusade, it had finished, which therefore meant all
Moloch,
he was.
by
No,
the
all
no,
he
no,
was-
no.
Finally,
It
you're after.
largely finishes with the Horus Heresy,
So he could have.
where things settle down again and, well, things start to return to their normal baseline in the Immaterium again.
Right.
Yeah, say that, Montana, but actually, that's the good thing. All of this has been mostly through the same series of writers.
Yeah.
Or people who've trained the next set of writers up.
And I will point out that a lot of these books are written based on campaigns that are fought. Some of them are, anyway.
There's a reason why you will have basically never heard of the first 13th Black Crusade. Because yes, technically speaking, there was two 13th Black Crusades. One of them was erased from existence because... What do you mean the Imperium kicked ass so hard they basically were ready to enter the Eye of Terror?
Yes, we don't talk about that. That's what Montana said.
Creed!
The universe feels more like a fucking sci-fi D&D game than franchise.
Or that franchise?
Yeah, and 40k is.
Yeah.
Remember, 40k is a tabletop battle game
Mm-hmm.
where you buy and paint miniatures and fight in battles against your friends.
Or in Runon's case, collect the boxes and sprues and then never get enough time to build or paint them.
Yes. The
In-
law
I,
of the
no.
first sort of 30 years was secondary fluff to make the battles interesting. And fun fact, 40k started off as a game called Rogue Trader. For those of you who are not aware, Rogue Trader is basically gothic sci-fi D&D.
Yeah, we don't
And
talk
has-
about first edition.
That has a lot in common with second edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Actually, you know what, Montana? Would you like an excellent example of why it feels like a sci-fi D&D game?
Why?
Are you aware of one of the first Inquisitors we ever had named, and is canonical, is, I kid you not, Inquisitor Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau.
Oh, I forgot that guy.
That is his official name, and he is still canon.
Oh, we have fun. We do have fun. Oh, dearie me.
So, about that whole sci-fi D&D game, very much
And-
feels like a.
No, Montana, he's
Yeah.
not. He's not joking. He's being entirely accurate.
I'm being serious.
With that.
And it's like, right. Remember, 40k Warhammer General starts in the 1980s. Same reason why one of the worst places to live in the entire Imperium is a planet called Birmingham. Where everyone is a savage, primitive tribal who has evolved backwards.
In fact, actually, we have a picture of him.
Where they have reverted to using muskets in an age where everyone else is using laser rifles or better.
Great.
He is the one on the left.
Oh my god. I love old 40k. Also, I will just point out very quickly, I'm going to make an opinion here, which is probably going to get me shot, but fuck it. Even in 30k, at the height of the Great Crusade before the Emperor went back to Terra, the Imperium was never that good of a place to live, or just generally as a state.
It wasn't.
And
Yeah.
the Emperor was a deeply flawed man who fundamentally didn't know nearly as much as he thought he did.
That's not saying much, though. And he did know as much as he thought. Just go on, Ronan.
I believe you guys have all deviated from the question.
Depending
Well-
on where you
Yes.
Hi, have you been on Ramblings?
I mean, to be fair, the question can be answered by everyone else in the world gets
Ultramar-
creamed.
Go on, Ronan.
Yeah, it's a walk. If you were on Ultramar pre-Great Crusade, or in the realms thereof, to my knowledge, it wasn't actually that bad.
It wasn't
But it's
that
gotten
bad
worse in the
by
intervening
40k
11,000
standards.
years.
Because the best way to think about it from a
Even by
historical
30K
lens
standards.
is the 30k Imperium is a lot like the Renaissance in Europe. Things are getting better, things are advancing, wonders are starting to be built, but 99.9% of the population are still dirt-covered peasants subsistence farming.
And oh, by the way, you can get conscripted to go and fight in wars with no choice.
Yeah, a lot like the Renaissance period.
Yeah.
And then instead of going forward and things are getting better, things went backwards. And things just got worse and worse.
And it was
Which
also
is why now Gilliman's returned, things are starting to get better. But for anyone who's not the 0.1% who profited off the Renaissance, historically, it's still shit
Right.
for everyone else.
So, arguably, you can say that actually for a lot of people in 40k, life isn't actually that bad. Because, well, it's, as you said, basically just farming, living. You
This
don't
is-
actually have to deal with that much bad stuff. You can your family can go multiple generations without even an official coming to investigate your lands.
like, yeah, this is one of the things that I will actually
Live
agree
in
with.
ignorance.
Like in the grim darks of the far future, there is only war. Yes, this is technically true on the peripheries, and if there's a rebellion. But for a good 70 to 80% of humanity, they will be born, live, and die with sweet fuck all happening.
I mean, like, even war worlds like Armageddon, right? Dragon?
Mm-hmm.
How many years is there between the campaigns and Armageddon?
Armageddon's a poor choice.
Yeah.
But just
But,
give us the
uh,
time.
Right, when's the Second War of Armageddon? Because that one I actually need to double check the exact number. And I need to make sure to get the actual.
Yeah. But while
Yeah,
while Dragon's
this
looking
one.
for that, I'm just going to point out that a lot of the wars as well like obviously you get this whole big apocalyptic scale things that really steal the spotlight, but a lot of the wars are actually what we would consider to be fairly close to
So-
modern peer-on-peer, traditionally human-centric conflicts. Like for
Between the
example, there are renegade guard regiments that don't turn to chaos, or planets that rebel, and you might get a couple of core-size Imperial Guard force coming in to, retake them. And you're talking about a conflict that's fought in a parlance and panoply that we would consider in the modern era to be mostly normal and at a scale of devastation that's not far outside perhaps the Second World War, minus some of the more strategic bombing aspects and nuclear warfare, with a mechanized force centered around armor, artillery, and mechanized infantry, supported by aircraft, with maybe some orbital bombardment. Like, a lot of the wars that are the war part of 40k are not massive apocalyptic scale engagements.
That was
So between Second and Third War for Armageddon, it took 57 standard Terran years.
And given what's the
Yeah.
average age in the Imperium is like 50, if that.
Depends, very much so. As I said, Armageddon's not a great choice just because
Yeah.
Gazgul went, no, I'm coming back for round 2.
Yeah, but you,
And then
you got to
I'm
remember,
coming back for round 3.
because Armageddon had 3 wars
For
in a couple of hundred years. Remember correctly. And it's like 200 years for all 3 of them.
Yeah. 40k is there's only war because basically
no.
every major
No.
power.
3
Is
wars in
for-
500 years, sorry.
sorry, go on. Ruben.
And you got to remember,
Uh,
Armageddon, despite being a world that is the source of a lot, a significant minority of 40k's actual campaigns, and the big battles we know of, Armageddon is also known to the Orcs under a different name. That name is Ulanor.
No, wait. Hold on just a cotton picking minute.
Yep.
You didn't know
No,
that?
no.
Please?
Armageddon and Ullanor are two different things.
No, they're the same
they're
thing.
not.
They're the same world.
What?
They're
Yep.
they're not fleet. Even I know that. Sorry.
Stellar,
but-
literally via some scale of stellar engineering, Armageddon, or Ullanor as it was moved solar system.
Is this in the aftermath of the War of the Beast? Since it was still Ullanor in the War of the Beast.
I believe the whole thing is that the Orcs turn it into a war planet, which is how it moves. So I think so, yeah, from where. But then they end up leaving, and then the Mechanicus strip it bare and then terraform it into a habitable world. Come back later and go, right, this planet is called Armageddon. Because the records just didn't include that it was Ullanor.
Yeah.
To be fair, they didn't even know it was Ullanor.
A minor oversight, that one.
Tiny bit.
But the fact is, Armageddon and Ulanor had largely been at peace since the War of the Beast.
They didn't Montana. The Emperor's Palace only covers most of over
Himalayas.
Antarctica in the
No.
northern hemisphere.
No, it's Himalaysia. The Emperor's Pass is
Well,
confirmed to have been raised from the Himalayas.
Also the polar fortress, but But either way, most of the planet isn't gold plated.
No.
Yeah.
Also, relatively speaking, when you've got,
Like,
millions
A
of
million.
star systems, gold's kind of
yeah.
worthless.
And also,
Yeah,
the
so
Echimenopolis was fairly easy to build comparatively.
I've just got to correct this roughly. So, the Emperor's Palace being on the Himalayas has been semi-retconned by the Siege of Terra books.
Hey.
into a polar fortress / fortress network that covers basically all of northern Eurasia. Basically all
Oh,
of Eurasia.
that makes it a lot less.
So checking it, it does primarily cover the. At the moment, it does still cover the Himalayan mountains as well, but it also seems to stretch up into the poles.
Yeah.
I've also just realised, we've
Yeah, that's my way. I mentioned this earlier. That's what I think, but
I should probably it's yes,
Sleep?
it's 10 o'clock. I probably need to finish for myself. I will, since this train is still technically going, and some people have questions regarding Warhammer.
We'll be in the VC tech. We'll be in the VC chat.
Yeah,
if people
thank
wanna
you
ask
everyone for
questions.
coming. We've had actually a longer ramblings than we've had for a while. 2.5 hours, not bad at all. I actually, so it's been a long day at work. Anyway, so I will see you all on. I might be in Armchair Admirals this Friday. It depends.
Yeah, what kind of blatantly sleep will work.
I might not. Keep your eyes peeled on Armchair Admirals. I know that certain people will be in there. Of course, if all goes well, we'll have a Drac Ramblings next week, specifically regarding fictional ships. And why they are usually, but not always, more extreme than ships you would otherwise